Good morning to you all, and welcome to our business growth webinar for food care nurses. My name is Alejandro Otero, and I am thrilled to have with us Diane Hill and all of you. Like yourselves, I am an entrepreneur nurse and the co-founder of Company On. It is an all-in-one management platform that helps solo practitioners run their business. Again, as I said, we have a very special guest join us today. Diane Hill is a successful food care nurse and businesswoman. She will share with us her invaluable experience of building a successful business, including the ups and downs. I'd like to thank you, Diane, for this opportunity. And I will also like to thank Pat McDonald's for facilitating this session for the Association of Manitoba Association of Food Care Nurses. Whether you are an aspiring solo practitioner or a successful seasoned business owner, today's webinar is for you. Our goal is to inspire and educate you with real life experiences and practical advice that you can apply to overcome the challenges we all know building a business may bring. I am thrilled to know that many of you are already adopters of the solutions we offer for the management of your own business. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. This session is for about 60 minutes. You can use the Q&A section to ask questions and to post your questions. We will answer them at the end of the session. Our recording will be available in the next 48 hours. And the subscription, annual subscription plan that we're going to be having at the end of the session, we will announce a winner this coming week. With that in place, let's get started. I'm honored to introduce Diane. Diane is a successful food care nurse and business owner based in Langley, BC. Diane, before we dive into the details on how you were able to build a successful business, please tell us a little bit about you, your journey as an entrepreneur nurse, and how you came to be what you are today.
Thanks for having me, Alejandro. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story and my insights. I've been an LPN since 1995, working primarily in community. When I finished training, I realized I did not want to work in the hospital, and I thought I was in deep trouble with student loans and all that other stuff. But anyway, opportunity to take foot care occurred back in 2003, where I was working. We had a foot care nurse on board, and that's before anyone really knew what foot care was. And she was looking to retire. I needed a change. My employer was really quite freaked out at the thought of Marilyn retiring because there was no one to cover these cases, and that was going to be a loss of a revenue stream for her. So it all just sort of came together at that point. So and in BC, foot care was just opening up to LPNs at that time. So it was almost like it was meant to be. So I took the training, mentored with Marilyn, and started working it, and realized very quickly this was where I needed to be. So I was employed as a foot nurse for 10 years, and my employer was We Care Home Health Services. And our service area stretched here in the Lower Mainland from Abbotsford all the way to Hope. Actually went to a few places beyond Hope. And then over that time, the business expanded to include Langley. So I was the foot nurse running that whole Fraser Valley for about 10 years. So put a lot of miles on my car, but I gained a lot of experience. I was able to just concentrate on the skills, mastering the skills. In 2013, the business sold, and it was at that time that I jumped into private practice. And the only regret that I do have was I didn't do it sooner, but
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ready for it. So, yeah, it's never too late to find your passion, to find your niche. And yeah, I don't regret going into private practice at all, period.
That is great. And I think out of our conversations, you have mentioned and we're gonna dive deeper into that, the fears and what are those barriers that we put ourselves in order to uh, make the jump and build our own business. So
Mm-hmm.
with that in place, this is the piece that we're gonna be discussing. So navigating the challenges of starting an independent practice. Um, there are three key scenarios or challenges that you have identified, and I would like us for you to tell us more about them.
Okay.
We talk about overcoming fears and uncertainty. We're going to talk about learning how to run a business and the balancing work and personal life. Um, so let's start with overcoming fears and uncertainty when starting your business. What were those key steps that you needed to take in order to become a business savvy? One of the pieces is that as nurses, we don't go to nursing school. Uh, the school didn't prepare us to become business people. So it is definitely important to understand what were the foundations that you built when you decided to make the jump.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, the biggest fear was, how do I eat this elephant, right? And it's because there's so many things to consider. And somebody once quoted, and I'm not sure where it came from, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So first thing for me was get out of my head, right? Write down what I needed to do. I consulted my practice consultant at the college. He directed me to the documents that I needed to follow. I also talked to someone that I trusted very much, who he himself was very successful in business, and that was my brother-in-law. So one night after dinner, we sat down with a bottle of wine, a pad of paper, and we figured out what the numbers were going to be for me to be successful. Um, we knew we had to make as much money as I was being employed. And how did that look like? So, over the course of the evening and that bottle of wine, we just sort of pulled everything apart as to what was involved. So we broke it down to, okay, what sort of income do I want? How many people do I want to see in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year? Okay. So then you've got to factor in, okay, out of all those days, you're going to be off sick. You're going to need holiday time. You're going to need
Mhm.
to take time off for training and just miscellaneous lost days, whether that be, children off sick, or maybe your car breaks down, or, just those unforeseen circumstances that you just have absolutely no control over. So from that, we were able to figure out what just a baseline income was going to be. And for me at that time, it was just under 43,000.
Okay.
Then we go into what were the expenses, and just broke it down as to what that was all going to be. So there were other resources that we pulled from too. So there's a lot of information online. So with here in BC, I was using Small Business BC websites, professional associations. So I'm a member of the CAFCN and a member of the LMFNA. So I was connecting with the LMFNA members, just sharing ideas. Yeah, I'm starting to wander now, Alejandro. So sorry for
Mentioning
that.
about the associations, how key were they for your success? What key information or foundational support were they able to provide you? Was it networking? Was it just giving you a better understanding of what were your responsibilities and requirements? Um, Tell us more about
Yeah,
the association.
yes. So, I mean, of course, with the, BCCNM, that gave me my um, professional obligations
Mhm.
that I need to adhere to. Um, but with the LMFNA, it was nurses guiding nurses, sharing of ideas. It was okay, this worked for me, it might work for you. Okay. Ensuring that practicing, we were all doing the same thing. With CAFCN, it's an opportunity for learning. Um, go to these annual conferences. Your mind just expands with ideas and possibilities, and learning new information. Um, it's and networking certainly with other nurses as well, sharing of ideas. It's invaluable.
It's the
It
community that
really
you're
is.
able to build, and again,
Yeah,
like-minded people able to
yeah.
share challenges and triumphs. Perfect. Um, I like what you mentioned to me when we were going through this interview and this process, where you said begin with a small, manageable business, slow and steady wins the race. Um,
Right.
it's so wise. So definitely, I think this is one of the many challenges that when we start a business, by tomorrow or in a week, we already want to be successful and caring for 100 clients. Um, in your experience, how long does it take? I know that there are many external factors, but what would you think is a good amount of time in order to establish your business? Let's call it establishing a business, having 20, 50 clients.
Well, what I will say is this: the effort, the time and effort that you put into your business, you will reap the rewards. Um, you can. This is a beauty with foot care. You can either go part-time casual if you already have a regular full-time position. You can work foot care around school and soccer and stuff like that. um, I I I just for giggles yesterday, I took a look at my client list, and in 10 years I have built up 800 open files. But that's in 10 years. That's doing it full time, and that's working it. Um, how long is it going to take you to build, 10, 15, 20, 25? I really can't say. But one way to build your business is if you know of a colleague who is exiting the industry and is looking for a nurse to take over those client files, there's 20 clients right there.
Hmm.
Um, it's it's all about opportunities. There's no time limit as to how long it's going to take. It's different for every individual.
That's great to know. So, a tip is if you find a nurse that is running a business and is either descaling the business or selling it, that is a good opportunity for you to grow much faster your own
Oh,
practice. Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Now, once you were able to educate yourself, getting all the foundation needed to run the business and confront your fears and doubts, tell us what were the key actions you took in order to not only start gaining and admitting new clients, but also operate business. I think one of the pieces that we forget about building our own practice is that we are not only employee, but employer as well. So
Yes.
tell us about that transition. Tell us about becoming an employee and the employer.
All right. So one of the first things I did in building my business was looking back to the time when I was employed as a foot care nurse. Um, at that time, the public didn't know who we were, what we did, and what really separated us from the aesthetics community. So, one of the first things I did in building my business was to make sure that somewhere I needed to be identified as a nurse. So, one of the first things I did was obtain consent to use the title nurse in my
Mm,
business name. So, today for the last, 6, 7 years, I've been advanced foot care by nurses. I've incorporated a couple of years ago. Um, so getting, branding is very important. And then value proposition, what makes me unique? So my focus was to separate myself as much as I could from the aesthetics community. Um, so, advertising, okay, why are you going to come
mm,
to advanced foot care by nurses? And so part of my shtick when I have a prospective client on the phone is I use this phrase. The scope of my practice is a proactive, is proactive. My goal is to be able to help you to identify clinical concern early. If anything does make itself apparent, I'm struggling for words there,
mhm.
um, then the goal is to get you to your physician as early as possible for early intervention. Um, whereas the aesthetics community, they make your feet look pretty. My job is to keep them healthy.
Mm.
And so that's the sort of verbiage I would use, and that's the image that I portray, um, uh, to that makes me unique. That makes me unique.
And at the same time, I believe uh, because you're using a protected title, which is
Yes,
the nurse title, and I think
yes,
as part of our practice standards, we need to. It is our duty to care for a client in a way that is in beneficial to that individual.
yeah,
If we don't start from there, and as you said, your goal is not to make feet pretty. Your goal is to make them healthy. That is the reason why you are a nurse. Tell me about asking for permission or registering your name, registering your business with the title nurse. Do you have to ask permission to the regulator to do so?
yeah. So when I so you need to register your name. Well, in BC, we had to register the name with the province.
Hmm.
And so I did that. They came back and said, nope, this is restricted title. We need a letter from your, collegial body, stating that you can use that name. So I had to apply to the college, to request permission. I had to write a letter and had to document or prove that the use of the title nurse would be used responsibly and appropriately, and as not to mislead the public in any way, shape, or form. It had to be crystal clear that as an LPN, I was cognizant of what my professional
Obligations
scope
were.
of practice was.
Hmm.
So that had to be reflected in the document as well. Had to be reflected in the document that I was not in any way, shape, or form diagnosing medical conditions,
Hmm.
even though we're trained to identify those signs and symptoms. And so once I obtained the permission, I was then able to submit the registration documents to the province of BC to register my name. So it's a
Onto
little
your
bit
business. Yeah.
of a process, but it's not unobtainable. It's just give it a little bit of time. You can
Perfect.
do it.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, finally, on this piece, coming up with prices, can
Yeah.
you share with us the market research that you did? So, what steps did you take to see what other providers were charging? How was that process in a nutshell to come up then, okay, I'm going to be competitive and this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah. So what we did that evening over the bottle of wine with my brother-in-law, um, he had asked me to do some legwork ahead of time.
Okay.
He wanted to know how much it cost me to put a packet of tools together. So one night I just sat down and I set up my kit, and as though I had someone in front of me. So I pulled out, you know, the nippers and all of that sort of stuff, the gloves, and I even measured the liquids. And so I was able to come up with a break even number of what it took to put that pouch of tools together.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, okay, what sort of a wage do I want for this? Right.
Yeah.
And um, so I came up with my number, but I also, and my number at that time was $55. But then I also looked around to what the aesthetics community
We're
was
charging.
charging. I also took a look at what allied health professionals were charging in terms of what it costs to get into their office. So I'm looking at my chiropractor and massage therapy
Okay.
and all of that. That's how I was able to come up with a price. Um, it's tricky, because you don't want to price yourself too high and price yourself out of the market,
Well,
but yet
mhm.
you don't want to be leaving money on the table either. So it's whatever the market's willing to bear in your area. So what I mean by that is in the lower mainland, Vancouver, Burnaby, Langley, White Rock, we can generally charge more money for an in-home visit. My in-home visits right now are $85. You can't get that in Abbotsford, Chilliwack, or even Hope.
Okay.
The market's not willing to bear that. So it's kind of a fine line. Like there is no, blanket fee that, there is no line in the sand. So I try to keep my prices competitive with my colleagues. I don't
And
want to undercut anybody. That's not fair and it's not
yeah,
appropriate.
yeah, and the area as well. So,
Yeah.
how often are you updating your prices? How often are you adjusting the prices based on the need, the market, the area, and again, the cost of life?
Um, well, we have to do a general cost of living increase, inflation, right? Um, COVID really played a number on what it costs for us to put our pouches together. Supply lines were disrupted. Um, Costs for masks and gloves and gowns and all of that went through the roof. And now that COVID's over, supply chains have been restored, those prices haven't come down. So I try to do a fee increase of $5 every other year. And I'm doing that right now, doing that increase. And people are understanding.
How do
They're
you
under,
present it, Diane? How you present to your clients the increase on the fees?
um,
Do you have a specific wording to it, or
yeah. I've increased these fees, through, over the last decade. I have a standard letter, and everybody receives a letter. Um, Everyone has a conversation. Like, I have a deliberate conversation with everyone when they're in my chair and when their foot is in my lap. Um, so 2 months notice that, okay, your fee today is $85. When I see you next time in 2 months' time, it'll be 90, right? So, I think it's fair to have that conversation
Mhm.
with your client, and they can ask questions and you can answer those questions.
A great point. And I think
Yeah.
when it comes to the services, and again, as a nurse, is the ability to be transparent and non-deceiving. So I think that is very, very important. Um, do you deal with third-party insurers? And when you do that, how that applies to your prices?
Um, I do not direct bill. The only the only third party that I direct bill is Veterans Affairs. Um, they have a cap on how much I can bill, but that cap doesn't cover the entire fee. So I will direct bill the maximum that Veterans Affairs allows me to, and the client pays the difference. I had for a short time a provider number for ICBC. That's our insurance, our vehicle insurance carrier here in BC. I I had a carrier there, provider number there, and I was able to direct bill. But I've let that go. It just it wasn't it wasn't worth the paperwork involved for one client. So I just stopped that.
Stop doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that kind of challenges when it comes down to fees and to payments and dealing with insurers, are you like very like cut dry, or do you try to work with with the client and the insurer, or it's just something that is not worth your time as a practitioner, or it all depends on the case?
I think it depends on the case. In the case of the ICBC client, he was the only ICBC client I had. And the insurance, they take 6 to 8 weeks to pay.
Okay.
Um, and I mean, they may be slow, but they always pay their bills, as with Veterans Affairs. But to me, it was just too much work for this one individual. So it was just cut and dry. It's like, no, I'm not direct billing anymore. You can pay me. Here's the receipt with my name, my address, my registration number, my business number, everything that they need. Um, you submit your receipt for reimbursement.
Okay.
And it was just cut and dry. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that experience and the methods that you um, apply for that kind
Yep.
of situations.
Yep.
Now, again, because sometimes when we start a business, we do not have the funds.
Yeah.
What do you do to find those funds? Uh, and what suggestions you will provide to those that are about to start their own business when it comes down to financial management and funding?
Okay. Well, if you want to make money, you need to spend money. And one of the things that I needed to do, which also to separate me from the pack early on, was I needed an autoclave. And so I leveraged the equity in my house and I secured a line of credit, nothing big, $10,000. And so I used that to buy the autoclave. And then a few years later, I used that to buy the vacuum drills. And then I've used that to buy tools. I've used it to fund, to fund the acquisition of equipment. Now, taking out this line of credit, you are paying interest on the amount that's outstanding. Those interest payments are income tax deductible as a business expense. So you're not only paying off the principal, but the amount of interest as well. And so I learned quickly that, oh, hey, yeah, I'm going to write this interest off too. And it's all legal. You can
And thank
do
you for
that.
bringing that to our attention, Diane, because I think one of the pieces that we also do not know or might not consider is that not incorporating or registering our business
Yeah.
may carry like more benefits than not.
Yes.
And it might not be as expensive or as complicated to, register your business as a solo proprietor or corporation, but there are benefits that outweigh not doing it, eh?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's just so many, opportunities abound when you are a registered business. And even if you're even if your business is just as a sole proprietor, like Pat McDonald Foot Care, all those expenses, the interest that you pay on this line of credit, that you can use to your advantage.
Correct.
And there's lots of information on the internet. I'm not familiar with the opportunities that exist in Manitoba.
Hmm.
But if you do a little bit of research, you probably find that there's just as much there as I've been able to leverage here in BC.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you, Diane. To finish on the services that you provide and the pricing, Pat is making a question in regards to the organizations that you provide services to.
Okay.
Do you work with social services or low-income clients? And if you do, what is the price of your services or how you're able to manage the fees of, for example, $85? What is
Okay.
how you work with that?
Okay. So I am not. I don't have a contract to provide care to low income individuals. Nothing like that exists here in BC that I'm aware of. So what I have done is my fee is my fee, and we play with the interval between appointments. So when I took my training 20 years ago, Susan Tremble, who was the instructor at that time, her guideline was you want to go back and see your clients every 6 to 8 weeks. And so what I found was 6 weeks was far too soon for the majority, and they didn't want to see me that soon.
Hmm.
So we just delay the appointment by, 2 weeks or so. Usually there was a little bit more nail growth there. But as long as you're seeing this person regularly, you can stretch that interval out. I have individuals who are, of limited means. Maybe I only see them 4 times a year, 5 times a
Oh,
year.
okay.
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 So that's what I mean. I stretch the interval out and I make it very clear, and it's documented on their chart that, okay, we have agreed to this, 3 months, on the stipulation that, what do I want to say? On the stipulation that the risk of the extra time
Mm,
does not create complications as a result.
okay.
Okay. But for what I do in my residential care facility, I'm contracted by the families. Okay. Um, the very first visit, we do an assessment, and that assessment is billed out at $85. And then subsequent visits are billed at $65, but they're being seen when the nurse is there. So we kind of cluster everyone together.
Oh,
And as long as their loved one is seen on the day that the nurse is there, it's $65. If they refuse, which everybody has a right to decline care, if that person says, no, I don't want Shannon to see me on Tuesday, can you come back on Friday? They don't get the 65. They get the
oh,
85
okay.
because it's okay. Do you see where I'm going with
Mm-hmm,
that?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I'm able to do price breaks, if you will. I'm struggling for the right lingo, but if it's corralling everybody together on one day. Very seldom do we run into that situation where the nurse has to go back on a different day altogether. That almost never happens. And if it did, depending on how long that client's been with me with advanced foot care, I might just give them the 65.
Okay.
Okay. So there is no price break, because there's no subsidies for me,
Yeah.
right, for offering cheaper care. And that doesn't sound good. I mean, everybody receives the same care, the same caliber of care. But there's no subsidy for me for offering that same caliber of care at a lesser price.
Yeah. And I think this is the thin line that you have to drive as a nurse, but also as a business owner. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand that.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my car mechanic doesn't give price breaks for low income. No, no. So, I mean, yeah,
Right.
yeah, I hope that answers your question, Pat.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Diane. I'm finally on this piece, and again, just touching back on the ability to network with like-minded people.
Yeah.
How crucial was that for you as well?
Oh my God, that was huge. That was huge. Um, so in those early days when I was a brand new foot care nurse and Marilyn had, since left, um, it was one of the loneliest feelings I had. Just, okay, I felt like I was on this island by myself and, like no one to collaborate with, bounce ideas off. So I was lucky to find the Lower Mainland nurses all those years ago. And in those early days, we had Ruth Steer and Judy Shaw and Michelle. Oh darn, I can't remember her last name. Michelle. Um, and then there was Sandra Tree. I mean, we had all these amazing nurses, and we were all sharing ideas, bumping ideas around, and it was key. I learned so much
Hmm.
from networking and going to the conferences. Like back in those early days, we didn't have the CAFCN, but we had the Winnipeg conference. So I
Hmm.
had gone to there a couple of times, and you just learn so much from going to these conferences and members meetings, it's invaluable. Like that's an intangible asset that you cannot put a price on. It is priceless.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Uh, Having a community in which you can rely on and bounce ideas, I think makes such a big difference, more so when you struggle and you don't know where to go. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your own experience. Now, you just mentioned at the beginning, you now have a base client of more than 800 clients. Um, and for you to get where you are, definitely it didn't go smoothly at times.
No,
So
no.
as you start establishing yourself as a food care nurse and your business, how were you able to scale it? How were you able to overcome the pain points you found along the way to grow and manage not only, again, the provision of care, but also that of your business?
Well, I'm still experiencing growing pains. That that having 800 open files for me is too much. Is too much. So we're going to be looking to do something about that. But you've got to market yourself. You've got to put yourself out there, and that's what worked for me. Was I, my business cards. I had rack cards, and I pounded the pavement. I went to doctors' offices, senior centers. I thought of, okay, where are my clients going to be? So dropping off cards at, say, support services like um, oh gosh, in shocks. I'm sorry, my mind's just gone blank here. But the Arthritis Society, they had a location here in Langley, so I dropped cards off there. I purchased ad space in seniors directories. You could certainly join your local chamber of commerce. I haven't done that. Um, just industry partners. So we had like a home health store in town, Shoppers Home Health. They sold everything from hospital beds to walkers to salt lamps to like just about everything. So I would drop cards off there. Go into facilities, and you're making these cold calls to director of care, and let me tell you, that's scary. I'm pretty outgoing, but making cold calls it just terrifies me. But it's got
Agree.
to be done.
Agree
It's got
with
to be
you.
done, right?
Yeah.
I also, one of the first things I did early on was I did a seniors expo, and that was terrifying. But and out of that, I got one client, and 10 years later, he's still with me. And so just his loyalty has more than paid for that expense, 10 years ago. I think it was like $1,500. Yeah,
hmm
I think it's paid for itself now.
That's great. Thank you so much. And then again, I think one common denominator here is focusing on the community you live and you are part of, eh?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Now, I did acquire client lists, that intangible asset, the client list, from other nurses who were leaving the industry. So I was buying businesses. There was no guarantee that those individuals were going to stay with me. So I did everything I could within scope of practice to ensure that I endeared myself and built that relationship with them. Most stayed, some left. I wasn't their cup of tea, and that's okay. It was, my attitude was, okay, that's business. It's not personal. They don't know me. They don't know what I can do. But maybe they'll be back.
Excellent, excellent. Now, when it comes down to buying other businesses, do you seek that proactively, or it just happens to fall on your table? What do you recommend to do in if someone knows of someone selling a business or seeking someone selling a business?
Um, well, here for the Lower Mainland nurses, we have a website. Um, so it's, the purpose of the website is mentoring and education for the members. But there's also a directory page where the public can go to find a foot care professional in their community. So if I'm looking to sell off part of the business, I can, go to the directory, see which nurses are accepting new clients, and I can reach out to them and inquire if that's something they might be interested in. Selling a business shouldn't be based on the number of clients. It should be based on the revenue that this intangible list, this client list, can generate. Okay.
Okay.
That's how I think that should work.
Thank you. Thank you for these tips, Diane. Now, let's talk about operating that business. So, I believe, and you also believe this, you share this with me, that in order to build a business that becomes successful, you have to create certain processes. And you, out of your experience, you identify three key elements of operating the business. Tell us about it.
All right. So operational efficiency, so scheduling, billing, and record keeping. So BC, I've got to keep my records for 16 years. I'm not sure what the requirement in your province is, but the busier you get, you need to get organized. So I was doing manual for the longest time. Something had to give, so I went electronic, and it's a game changer. It's a game changer. So it allows me to look at the week in advance and know where the vacancies are in my schedule. So I can look quickly. Google will let you do that in their schedules as well. But Google will let you do that in their, calendar app. That's fine, but you've got to use a separate program to look after your billing, and you're going to need something separate to look after the charting. And that's just too many moving pieces for me. So leveraging technology is use it. It saves you time. It improves patient care. All your notes are in one place. The schedule, the billing, the notes, it's all in one place. You can track your revenue. Better data management. You've got the peace of mind knowing that the server, because their servers got to be Canadian servers, that meets our Canadian regulations for safeguarding information. Going electronic, the cost, it's less than one patient visit per month. Per month. So it's cost saving that way. It takes no space on your desk at all. I've got a filing cabinet in the back of all these paper files that I have to hang on to for the next, probably the next 20 years, because I've only gone electric in the last 5. So I've got to hang on to those paper files for a while yet. but you've got to safeguard those files.
Yeah.
So you
And
know, you've got all of that you've got to contend with as well.
the piece, and just to add here, the piece on risk management, I think electronic documentation allows you to safeguard those documents in the cloud. That is going to save you space, but also it's going to allow you to, something happens in your house or whatever you're storing those documents, you lose them, you don't have the opportunity to retrieve them. And when it comes down again to retaining documentation, and Pat, thank you for clarifying. In Manitoba, you have to keep records for 10 years after you no longer look after a client. So keeping, as you are mentioning, Diane, for 20 years records in your household, I think it's detrimental to the business, to the client, but you can then retain those digitally, safely, and access them whenever you need. So thank you for sharing that. And I think the aspect on documentation is quite important because we are responsible for maintaining those. Now, tell us about growing into, I'm sure you are not alone or alone able to look after 800 people.
Yeah, that's
what are the pain points when it comes down to growing the business and hiring more nurses?
yeah. So that's a good question. I don't look after all of these 800 by myself, by the way. I have three other capable nurses. Um, so I subcontract the services of the three other nurses. So I've got Shannon, Raman, and Vanessa. And so they've each have taken a foot care program. So I know who the instructors are out here, and so they have to have completed a recognized foot care program, and we don't have a lot of choices in BC, so that part's easy. The nurses, they have to have liability insurance. I'm not an employer, okay? I contract their services, so they themselves are independent business women contracting to me. So I have to ensure that they have a the education, liability insurance. They also have to have their own WCB. Okay. I don't want to be responsible if they slip and fall during their course of work. As much as I love them, I don't want to be responsible for their medical expenses. They so WCB, liability. Those are the two big things.
Okay.
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 Those are the two big things. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, finally, Diane, with so many tasks at hand and commitments, again, being a wife, a mother, an entrepreneurial nurse, an employee, how have you been able to manage to balance your life as a business owner? What tools have you implemented and you continue to implement it to take time for yourself? Because again, we know how hard it is to build a business and carry out with all those commitments.
Well, that's a tough one. That really is. It really is. Um, I'm a workhorse. Like, I am a workhorse. My husband will agree with that. I work from 9 to 5, come home, have dinner, and then come home, have dinner, and then I'm at my desk tying up loose ends from like 6 till 10. Okay. This is my baby, and this is my egg, and I'm taking care of it. So for me, the biggest thing is embracing the technology. It really streamlines processes, saves time on the back end, as I call it. That's the 6 to 10 in the evening. And setting boundaries too. Like, that's one of the hardest things that I've had to deal with is, okay, no service calls. I made no telephone calls after 8 p.m. Like, You got to draw the line somewhere. And delegate tasks. I'm not a bookkeeper, so I've got Lisa who does that. I'm not a lawyer, so I've got Kim who does that. I delegate what I know I can't do because it's going to save time in the long run. It's going to cost me money, but it's going to save me time in the long run. Okay. I've also started to diversify revenue streams. So I'm looking for ways to work smarter, not harder. So that is bringing in other, that is offering other services like Cleartoe, OnifX, digital orthosis. I'm going to be taking some training in the spring in nail reconstruction in Spain, but also bringing in product. So that's selling Poto foam. That stuff is awesome. I love it. But it's also appliances like hammer toe crests and callus cushions and corn cushions. And so the whole point of bringing in the product line was to remove the barriers that prevented my clients from getting these simple but effective tools to mitigate pain. Okay. For years, I would just write down, okay, you need a hammer toe crest, and this is where you're going to go for it. And they'd come back, they hadn't obtained that device. They left it to family to go get it, and they're like, hammer toe crest, what is that? Or they go into the store and someone who wasn't understanding exactly what they were looking for put them into something different. So just diversifying revenue streams, passive income, I call it. And it's just an extra, can of Poto, $30, extra $30 here, extra $30 there. Over time, it all adds up.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And I think this is the piece when it comes down to the evolution of the business. When you identified different revenues that are passive, and I think this is key, the ability for you to increase the revenue via passive opportunities. So the product, as you mentioned, is one part of those, and the different treatments that you are offering. Great. All right.
Yeah.
We are very much at the end of this conversation, Diane. Thank you so much for this. Now let's just go into the if someone has additional questions. I know that we've answered a few that you've posted in the Q&A session, but is there any other questions our audience have? There were many already answered, but yes, let us know if you have. We just wait a couple of minutes to see if you want to further ask questions on the conversation that Diane is having with us.
Alejandro, I do have one thing to share, if I may.
Yes, please.
Okay. One of the big decisions when I went to private practice was giving up the loss of the benefits, right? Health and dental and all of that. So I was lucky in that my husband had benefits through his employer. He retired 2 years ago, and we've been without benefits since. A client back in the fall brought to my attention there is a plan for us solo practitioners. It is called Cost Efficient Benefit Plan, and head office is in Alberta, and they have offices in BC, Northern Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, Ontario, and Eastern Canada. And so how it works is you pay out of pocket for your health bills, and then you submit the claim To become a member, I'm just going to backtrack a sec here. It's $100 membership.
Okay.
So once you're a member, you pay out of pocket for your health expenses. You submit a claim, and then you are reimbursed 100%. And those medical bills now become tax deductible business deductions for your business. So it lessens your business's tax burden. And so I thought, that's awesome. That's slick. It works really well. So the contact for Saskatchewan and Manitoba, I don't have his full name, but his name is Steve.
And what is the name of the company, Diane?
It's
Maybe
called Cost Efficient Benefit Plan.
Cost Efficient Benefit Plans.
Benefit Plan, yes.
Okay.
And I have some telephone numbers. Can I give them?
Yeah. By all means. I mean,
Okay.
this is for the benefit of our audience. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. This is an Easter egg I've been saving for
Thank you so much.
today. Okay, so the telephone number for Manitoba, 1-800-357-7585. Area code, second number is area code 403-282-3700. Do you want me to repeat those numbers?
Yes, please.
Okay, the toll-free number again is 1-888-357-7585. The direct line is area code 403-282-3700. And the contact, his name is Steve at costplus.ca. And if you're curious to know what medical expenses are covered, it's medical expenses that are recognized by Canada Revenue. It covers everything from CPAP machines to braces to knee braces, medications, of course, chiro, dental, massage. The list is quite extensive. And so your business has to pay an administration fee of 5% on top of the amount that you're being reimbursed. So if you're being, your medical expenses are $100, the administration fee on top of that is 5%. And that administration fee is income tax deductible as well. So it lessens your business's tax burden. So you can use that in conjunction with an existing benefit that maybe you only get, an existing plan where maybe you're only reimbursed 80%. Cost Plus can probably cover the extra 20. So something worth looking into.
Yes, definitely. And I think, again, thank you for sharing this piece over here. One of our fears when we want to really go solo, I think we're looking for flexibility. We are looking for having the ability to own the time and the opportunities for us to build our financial freedom and professional freedom. And I think one of the barriers is that one. I am going to lose my benefits working for a health authority or being an employee. But there are opportunities out there. I think once you are able to completely merge into building your own practice, there's going to be tons of achievement and accomplishments that are going to give you back that time, that flexibility, and that financial freedom that you're looking for. And again, when it comes to benefits, there are opportunities out there that can wait on you making that decision. And with that in place, these are the conclusions out of the experiences that Diane has had, and many solo practitioners as part of our community also have. One
Mm-hmm.
of those is in regards to the challenges that it comes, again, becoming an employer and running a business. The ability for you to network with savvy people, like-minded people, the ability for you to incorporate tools such as our software allows you to, more than anything, manage your time. Time is the most value aspect that we have about our lives and running our business. This is the most important aspect of it. So leveraging technology is going to help you accomplish
Mm-hmm.
that. It's going to give you
Mm-hmm.
peace of mind.
Yeah.
It's gonna manage your risk management, and again, it's going to help you if you're looking to scale your business. Incorporating tools like ours is going to help you accomplish that much faster. Staying up to date, we are regulated professionals. Nursing is a long life experience. If you are not keeping up with your competences, if you are not keeping up with anything related to food care nursing, you are getting behind. And as Diane is mentioning, having the opportunity to any opportunity that you have through your associations, through your the college, through your community to educate yourself and keep your competencies up to date is beneficial not only for you as a practitioner, as a nurse, but also as part of the business. Do you want to add anything else to this, Diane?
Um, let's see here. I mean, I see there's one comment in the chat asking about the differences between Companion and Jane app. I think there's more similarities. I think, to answer this question, it's a matter of personal preference. Okay. There's a lot of other platforms out there. You've got Clinico. Um, uh, Back when I was employed as a foot nurse, we used a platform called Procura. Okay. I think regardless of which platform you choose one where the servers are based in Canada. Choose one where if you're having difficulty, your difficulties are responded to quickly. Okay. Um, I use Companion, full disclosure. Any problems I have, I get same day treatment. So I'm just putting that out there. Yeah, just ensure that your platform conforms to what we are required to have in Canada, and you choose the platform that works best for you. I'll leave it at that.
And I like to add, our software was built by nurses for nurses. Diane is foundational to the success of our platform and the capabilities that he has. She was a trailblazer, and other nurses, food care nurses in the Lower Mainland, to build the platform that we have today. Um, Diane can attest that we have optimized, we have improved what we had 5 years ago, 4 years ago is nothing compared to what we have today. And we are a community-driven business. It is about the community that we are building and the support that we are generating for nurses that makes us very unique. We don't call other platforms our competitors. I think there are other alternatives, as Diane is saying. But again, we are very nimble. We are community driven, and our goal is just to support and meet the expectations of solo practitioners, food care nurses all across Canada. Um, if you want to know more about our products, please send us an email. You can reach out to us at any time. We're happy to provide you with a one-on-one demo, and then make sure that we meet those expectations. Um, let's see if we have any other question about this. No, I think that's it. Um, Diane, I want to thank you again for taking the time to meet with us. It's been a pleasure. It is an honor to have you as part of our growth and this opportunity for nurses We will continue creating these kind of workshops to educate our community that can just empower them to be better, become better, and have answers to those challenges that come into place. We thank you really, 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 Diane.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks, peeps in Manitoba. Hope to see you at National, and I wish you well. Thanks for allowing me into your homes today.